I have been hearing incessantly from people for the last, 2 weeks, it feels like, that PragerU made a pro-slavery video. And I was skeptical because, let's be honest, PragerU is very good at going mask on. They lie in every video, which is a good sign of how good they are at being mask on. But generally, they don't just come out with their most horrible beliefs. But apparently, this video is literally a pro-slavery video, and the biggest sign that it's as bad as I've been told it is that, for one, it was only available on Twitter. They wouldn't even upload it to YouTube. And two, it's been removed from Twitter. The video has been deleted. Either this was done by PragerU in response to the amount of hate they got for it, or it was done by Twitter because, they made a video in favor of slavery, I guess. But I haven't seen this video. I haven't seen anyone's reactions or coverage of this video. So here it is. I found a re-upload on YouTube. Let's watch it while it's still on the internet. What's it at? 360p? That's going to be disgusting, but all right. All right, PragerU, hit me up with why slavery is good.
Who was Robert E. Lee?
An asshole?
Statues of great historical figures, like Robert E. Lee, are being torn down across America. Here are some facts about Lee that remind us why his statue should remain. Robert E. Lee was connected to George Washington through his father, Light Horse Harry Lee, Washington's cavalry commander, and his wife, Martha Washington's great-granddaughter. Lee's home at Arlington...
Wait, was that actually just it? Wait, he's just related to George Washington? That's why he deserves to have a statue still up of him? I would like it. I'd like statues of George Washington taken down. Fuck that. George Washington owned slaves. Fuck him. Fuck him, dude. Why would I... He is genetically related to George Washington, so his statue should stay up. So far, this isn't pro-slavery yet, but we'll see. Let's see. Lee's home at Arlington House
was just 10 miles from Washington's Mount Vernon.
Okay.
It is the site of Arlington National Cemetery.
Okay.
After 30 years of military service...
We're like a third of the way through the video. The video volume is a little low, my guy. Oh, can you guys not hear it all that well? All right, here. This is what we'll do.
Lee led U.S. Marines to crush the attempted slave rebellion by radical abolitionist John Brown in October 1859. 21 co-conspirators had seized a federal armory, and all of them were killed or captured, including John Brown, who was tried and hanged for treason. Lee
Wait! This was... People weren't fucking kidding. Okay, to be fair, John Brown was apparently actually crazy, but also based as fuck, okay? To be fair, John Brown was like a pretty crazy fucking dude, but like a fun, like... positively directed, like, crazy, okay? So they literally just gave an example of why Robert E. Lee's statue should remain up is because he commanded an army to wipe out a slave rebellion in which they executed an anti-slavery activist. He massacred slaves that were rebelling against slavery. Okay.
Marines to crush the attempted slave rebellion by radical abolitionist John Brown in October 1859. 21 co-conspirators had seized a federal armory, and all of them were killed or captured, including John Brown, who was tried and hanged for treason.
That's their argument. It's literally just he literally just slaughtered slaves that were rebelling and killed the guy that was trying to end slavery. The mask has disintegrated. The mask has been taken off and it has burned. That's just... This is like so mask off. It actually destroys many of the arguments PragerU has made in the past. PragerU has made videos arguing that these statues shouldn't be taken down. And generally, in these videos, they'll argue things like, well, okay, Robert E. Lee was a Confederate general. In fact, he's the most famous and well-known Confederate general, but he was actually against slavery. He didn't think slavery was good. Let's completely ignore the fact that he owned slaves and that he did, in fact, do the things such as slaughtering slaves, engaging in rebellion, and was actually pretty, horrid towards his own slaves. I think there's actually a story. There's a pretty interesting story. I think I learned this from Cult of Dusty. But he did a video on Robert E. Lee, like way back in the day, where Robert E. Lee's father, I think it was, promised that he wasn't going to, Robert E. Lee's dad promised that once he died, his slaves would be released. And he made his son, Robert E. Lee, promise to do that and actually, free his slaves. But what actually ended up happening was Robert E. Lee's dad died, and then Robert E. Lee didn't keep the promise, kept the slaves, and then when one of them tried to escape, it was like a little girl, it was like a young woman, had her whipped and like 50 lashings or something, and then ordered to have her wounds, like her the gashes in her back, doused in salt water to amplify the pain. This guy took active enjoyment, not only lied about that he would release his dad's slaves when he died, but on top of that, went as far as brutally beating his slaves and then taking massive joy and then dumping salt water on the gashes in their back to make it even worse, to make it sting and hurt more. He took active enjoyment in the suffering of black people.
Slavery a moral and political evil in any country, but considered it a greater evil to the white man than to the black race, since blacks are immeasurably better off here than in Africa.
Yep, that is a very common dog whistle even today from right-wingers. Basically, the argument was, slaves are better off, or black people are better off being slaves here than they are being in Africa, which isn't true. I actually did quite a bit of research about slavery because I have to argue against videos full of bullshit like this, but for the most part, before English colonization came along and started working with I guess you could call them militias in Africa, it was pretty all right living in Africa. It was a lot better being a free person in Africa than it was being a slave in America. This isn't debated under any academics or historians. It's really fucking not. It was not as bad as American white. I guess I don't even know what the word would be for it. Rewrites of history would make you think. It really isn't it's not it wasn't like they were living in fucking dirt and mud and not having anything to eat. You realize Africa is a massive continent that, especially at the time, was filled with wilderness and tons of animals and stuff like that. And they had fucking cultures and entire kingdoms of extremely rich, beautiful fucking cities. And many of these got destroyed by white colonialism, usually from the British and whatnot, and from Americans, France, things like that, and then eventually down the road in modern day being suppressed further by war and exploitation. The richest person to ever live was from Africa? Yeah, of course, because when you, Africa, think about it logically, okay? Africa is a massive continent that contains a shit ton of countries with a shit ton of ethnic groups. Not only that, but it is where all humans come from. You do realize all humans come from Africa, right? Humanity has existed in Africa longer than any other place on Earth. So you've got a group of humans that have lived in a place for longer than any other group of humans. You're going to find they found fantastic ways to adapt and build a massive civilization in that continent. They were very fucking smart. They had ways of storing water during droughts. I think I watched a video about how they made these big fucking clay pots that they would insulate and then fill with water and store underground during the rainy season. And then whenever the dry season came along and it got really dry, there wasn't a lot of rain, riverbeds kind of dried up a lot more, and it was harder to find clean drinking water. They basically had these big fields where they had buried, and it would also keep the water pretty cool too, where they had buried clean reserves of water for when it got really hot. They had gold, they had copper, they had bronze. They built cities and shit like that. You realize Egypt is in Africa, right? Egypt is like one of the most like what's the word for it? Opulent fucking societies you can imagine in history, right? With their fucking gold and all of that. Yeah, Africa was full of riches. They were extremely rich. And then, well, white colonists came and took it all. So no, the idea that like black people being enslaved in America and like having their families separated, getting beaten, being literally considered not people, but being considered property, the idea that is better than their homes with their families and whatnot in Africa, where they were pulled from against their will, or even if we're talking about second and later generation slaves being taken away from their family. A lot of like black women who were slaves were raped by white slave masters against their will, and then their children were forced to fucking toil as slaves as well. Like, just the worst human rights violations you can possibly imagine. The idea that, like, because there's this like really common stereotype that you see a lot of white people have, that Africa is like a barren desert wasteland. Well, that's not the case at all. Obviously, there's like areas out in the middle of nowhere, but like, look at every other civilization on Earth. They built massive, prosperous cities and villages along rivers. It's a massive fucking continent with a lot of countries and ethnic groups and a ton of different cultures. Like, seriously, the cultures of Native Africans in Egypt is very different from Native Africans in like Morocco. And that's only like one or two countries away. And it's a fucking world of difference down in like South Africa when we talk about Native Africans there before white colonization came along. The shit, it's like fucking crazy. Yeah, and there's the Gold Coast. PragerU. Yeah, this is a term called the white man's burden. It's the idea that like white men gave black people more opportunity by stealing them away from Africa and brutally ripping them away from their families and sending them off to toil as slaves for their whole lives. And for the lives of many of their children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. It's fucking wild how fucking twisted these people's brains are.
Opposing secession, Lee foresaw no greater calamity for the country than a dissolution of the Union. But when Virginia seceded in a close vote, Lee resigned his commission. Despite offers to command Union forces, Lee opted to organize the defense of his native state. After 4 years...
That's not true. I know a lot about Civil War history. That was at the very beginning of the war because the Union was doing a lot to launch assaults on his state. But after that, he was literally the #1 general that was he went all the way west. He went west of the Mississippi and was trying to attack non-slaveholding states up north to the west. And not only that, but later in the war, he brought his troops down to fight Ulysses S. Grant at the Capitol. I'm pretty sure he literally sent multiple invasions on the Capitol to try to take D.C. Not only that, but the Confederacy was trying to work with the UK to try to beat the Union, to try to beat the North in the war. Because they wanted the whole country to be slaveholding, while for the most part, in the North, they just wanted an equal distribution of slave states and non-slave states. It was literally the war. It was not the War of Northern Aggression, by the way. It was the War of Southern Aggression. They're the ones who seceded and were traitors who tried to start a war with the North because they were fucking freaking out because they thought if there were an equal number of slave states and an equal number of non-slave states, or like a counterbalance, like more non-slave states than slave states, then it would be unfair and unequal. And whenever it started to look like things were going that direction, they fucking split off. Yeah, Robert E. Lee would have sided with the Legion in New Vegas. True. Yeah, none of these people... Okay, PragerU... One of my favorite things about PragerU is every time we cover a video from them, I can sift through their video and find that almost everything they say is a lie. Almost every single thing is a lie. Yeah, the North did it for political power. They didn't give a fuck about slavery. Some of them were abolitionists who didn't believe slavery was good. But for the most part, the reason why the North opposed slavery, or at least like there being more slave states than North states, is because they thought that it would be because they wanted to hold political power. They didn't give a fuck about the slaves. This should be like Abraham Lincoln wasn't this like white savior figure who liberated the slaves or whatever. He's not like this hero. He was doing this war for political power, and he only announced the war was the war against slavery to avoid Europe from coming and helping the South in fighting the war, because the South because like Europe relied a lot on exports from the South. Things like cotton, things like tobacco, a lot of crops and whatnot are harvested in the South by slaves. The North was where all the production was happening. It's where you had things like the cotton gin, where you had factories and stuff like that were relying on exports from the South as well. England was in the same situation, where England was starting to seem like they were going to side with the South in the war. So Lincoln, realizing that there's no way they can win if the South has Europe on their side, said, "Oh yeah, it's the war to end slavery," and that made the optics of the South look so bad that England was like, "I didn't see nothing. I didn't see anything. What slavery? No, we're not in favor of that. We abolished slavery like 20 years ago." 25 years ago. No, we're not in favor of that. Yeah, so that's once again PragerU fucking lying.
As Confederate commander, Lee became an icon of reconciliation upon his surrender. As president of Virginia's Washington College, he favored education for freed slaves but opposed their right to vote.
Wait, what?
Lee died from a stroke.
What? Oh yeah, by the way, he opposed the right for black people to vote. He should have statues made of him. Why would you bring that up? Wait, this is so bad. Just cut it off at, it's probably a lie too. I don't feel like looking into it, but like, let's grant that he was in favor of like freed slaves having the right to education. Cut it off there. Don't add also he opposed their right to vote as an example of why there should be statues of Robert E. Lee everywhere. Yeah, actually, we should have a statue of Robert E. Lee dying like a bitch from a stroke. That's true.
In 1870 and is buried beneath Lee Chapel in what's now Washington and Lee University. His legendary warhorse Traveler rests in a plot nearby.
Fuck that racist horse. That's literally it? Wow, it just was a pro-slavery video. PragerU they made a fucking pro-slavery video. It's so weird, like, This feels like they were given. Oh my god, I cannot stop burping today. This feels like whoever made this video at PragerU just read like a trivia sheet about Robert E. Lee and was like, okay, let's read these off and then name the video "This is why we shouldn't destroy the Robert E. Lee statues." Like that's almost like what I'm getting from it here. Yeah, Prager KKK, more like it. Oh my fucking god, just an outright fucking pro-slave. I was skeptical, all right? I'm going to be honest. When I hear about a video from a reactionary being really bad on lefty Twitter, I usually get really, really skeptical because Twitter tends to blow things out of proportion, even if something genuinely is really bad. I did not, when I heard this is a pro-slavery video, I thought, okay, maybe it's got some yikesy takes in it that give a pretty good idea that PragerU is pro-slavery, but not outright. They went full mask off in this video. Without a fucking question. They went full mask off in this video. That is fucking wild. Yeah, no, they didn't. They upgrade. They went from mask off to hood on, Comrade Gertie. You're completely fucking right. That is absolutely fucking wild. Holy shit, dude. Holy fucking shit. Goddamn, PragerU. You are surprising me every single day with this shit. Oh my god. Well, if you're new and you hold on. If you like this video, make sure to like the video by hitting the like button. It helps the channel a lot. It helps the video get around. I appreciate it. If you're new and you want to see more content from me, be sure to subscribe and ring the bell icon so you actually get notified whenever I go live, because YouTube won't do that otherwise. And they won't tell you when I upload either. So ring that fucking bell icon. Subscribe, motherfuckers. On top of that, if you want to follow me on Twitter, there's a link in the description of this video, as well as the stream. Definitely follow me on Twitter. Lots of spicy memes on Twitter. Twitter's fantastic. Good, follow me on Twitter, okay? On top of that, if you want to debate me, you can join my fan Discord, the link in the description, and I will debate you. I will do it. I will debate you on stream. It'll be pog as fuck. Yeah, so definitely join my fan Discord. And also, If you have any extra money sitting around, you don't know what to do with, you don't need it for anything else, and you're just looking at this money, you're like, what the fuck am I gonna do with this? I don't know what else I want to use it for. I don't need it. I got my bills paid. If you don't need it for anything else and you feel like doing it, you can always donate to me. You can donate to me on the website, xanderhall.com/live. It's right here. This is the chat. You can donate or sub. It's very much appreciated. I do this for a living, so your support is the only way that I can, pay my bills and whatnot. Also, you can pledge to me on Patreon or hit the join button to become a member on YouTube. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good one. See you later.